What are the must-do experiences in Perth, Western Australia? Well, in this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast, I chat with Tess Moone about the top 5 things to do in WA's capital. From meeting quokkas on Rottnest Island to wine tasting in the Swan Valley and catching breathtaking West Coast sunsets, Tess shares why Perth is worth exploring. Plus, she reveals hidden gems, seasonal highlights, and the practical tips to help you make the most of your time in this relaxed yet vibrant city. Hi and welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Collins, who with my expert guests will take you on a weekly journey to destinations around the globe, providing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, practical tips and more to help you plan your next travel adventure. Hi and welcome to the podcast. This week, we're delving into the capital of Western Australia, Perth. Dubbed the most isolated city on earth, Perth is home to stunning beaches, world-class wineries, and a laid-back atmosphere that makes it a unique destination. To uncover the best experiences in the city, I chatted with Tess Moone, who previously joined us in episode 46 to share tips for first-time visitors to Western Australia, and episode 5 where she shared about her 3-month trip around Japan and Europe. But in this episode, she reveals her top 5 must-do experiences in Perth, including iconic attractions, hidden gems, and expert travel tips. So hello, Tess. Welcome back to the podcast. So this is your 3rd time on the podcast, but for listeners who haven't met you yet, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you live and what you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Tess. I'm a travel blogger and content creator. My social media handles and my blog is called Tess Somewhere. I'm born and bred from Perth. I do love traveling around the world, but Western Australia is what is, I just think, one of the best places in the world to travel to, and I spend a lot of time exploring it. I also love traveling around Asia. Japan is one of my favourite countries in the world other than Australia, so I spend a lot of time in Japan as well. So I've been a travel blogger now for about 5 years, and before that I spent most of my corporate life as a corporate finance analyst.
And I know you're very successful in the blogging and travel writing world, so it's absolutely fantastic to talk to you about WA and especially about Perth today. Who else to talk to about Perth but somebody who was born and bred and knows the city so well? So can you introduce Perth and tell us where it is for a start off? Because I mean, some people might not even know, but some people might think Perth and they think Scotland, or there might be a Perth in maybe there's a Perth in America. I don't know. So where in the world is Perth located and what makes it so special?
So Perth is the capital of Western Australia. So if you picture Sydney, that's on the east coast. So we're on the west coast. So we're going over to the other side of Australia. Western Australia is Australia's largest state. We're about a 4-hour flight from Sydney. So basically one side of the country to the other. And it's actually known for being one of the most isolated capital cities in the world. So I can fly for 4 hours and I'm in Sydney. I can fly for 3 hours and I'm in Bali. So a lot of people from Perth go to Bali because it's a lot closer and also a lot cheaper to go to Bali than it is elsewhere in Australia.
Definitely. And you can actually reach Perth by direct flights as well now from Europe.
It's very exciting. So there's now, last time I checked, 3 direct flights connecting Perth to Europe. So Qantas, the national airline of Australia, flies direct from Perth to London, to Paris and to Rome. So if you want to spend 17 hours in one plane, you can do that. I wouldn't want to, but you can do it.
Well, my daughter is actually flying back in August and she's taken that flight and I actually may join her on that flight to try it. And I actually met up with some lovely Aussies who took me out for afternoon tea in London who were from Perth recently, and they took the flight because I was like, well, how was it? And they said it was okay.
I think they must be medicated.
Well, I know I would be.
When they catch the flight.
That's for sure. I definitely would want to sleep through that flight.
Most people I've spoken to, they either love it or they hate it. I think it's one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll let you know if I do it. And I'll definitely, Dominique's definitely do it and she's already booked it. So we'll see how it goes. Now, for those people who arrive in Perth, what would be your top five experiences or must-do activities in Perth and why they stand out? So what would be really quite good is to go through each of the 5, give a kind of brief overview of each of them and some tips that could enhance the experience for visitors.
Okay, so my top five, I'm going to start with Rottnest Island. If you listen to our Western Australia episode, you know I already spoke about that. But as a quick recap, Rottnest Island is a small island off the coast of Perth. It's about 30 minutes away by ferry. And quokkas call Rottnest Island home. So I hope most people have heard of a quokka selfie. They're the most adorable little marsupial creatures. You get down low, take a selfie, and they're just adorable. And they're just free roaming all over the island. So a lot of people travel to Perth just to go to Rottnest Island and take the quokka selfie. A tip to enhance your experience is do what the locals do and rent a bicycle. There's no cars on the island. You can jump on a hop-on, hop-off bus or join a guided bus tour, but I recommend hiring a bike, which you can get on the island, and cycling around. There's over 60 beaches and 20 bays, so the beaches are just incredible. I think they're some of the best in Australia.
Oh, definitely. They are beautiful, I have to say.
Yes, the water is like nothing else. All right, so while we're talking about beaches, it would be amiss of me not to talk about Western Australia and Perth's beaches. So in Perth, I think you're quite spoilt for choice. Perth is all situated along the coast, so you've got so many beaches to choose from. And the reason why it's on the list is you can also catch a West Coast sunset, which is such a special experience. I think for a lot of people in Australia, if you're on the East Coast, you can watch the sun rise over the ocean, but you can't see it set over the ocean, but you can on the West Coast. And they're just beautiful. It's summer at the moment, and even last night, the sky's been putting on the most beautiful shows. So I love watching the sunset from the beach. Grab some fish and chips, have a takeaway dinner, have a beer or a glass of wine, and just enjoy. It's beautiful, particularly in summer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I've got some beautiful pictures from my last trip over from the sunsets. Just stunning.
I saw some of those. Beautiful.
So what about your third experience?
So I'm going to go with wine tasting in the Swan Valley. It's a wine region only 30 minutes from the CBD. So it's one of my favourite day trips from Perth. The Swan Valley wine region has a bunch, probably over maybe 40 cellar doors and wineries. A lot of them are family run, and they've got fantastic wine. So I think Western Australia is quite well known for its wine. Most of it's coming from the southwest region and Margaret River in particular, but we do have some great varietals that are grown just 30 minutes from the city, which I think is quite unusual. So being able to go out and have a wine tour, have a delicious gourmet meal, have lunch, sitting next to the vineyard while sampling some beautiful wines is an amazing way to experience the city. So my next on the list is Kings Park Botanic Gardens. It's one of the biggest botanic gardens in a city worldwide, I believe, and it's really picturesque. You've got beautiful manicured gardens. It's quite high. It's up on kind of almost like a cliff overlooking the entire Perth CBD and the Swan River. So the views are unparalleled. There's so much beautiful native plants to look at from all over Western Australia. So you can even see like a giant boab tree, which is from the Kimberley region in Western Australia, up in the northwest. So whether you go in the morning and have a coffee, or you go and have a picnic lunch, or go and watch the sunset, a visit to Kings Park at any time of day is highly recommended. And then lastly, we have Caversham Wildlife Park. So again, this is probably only 30 or 40 minutes out of the city, and it's a native wildlife sanctuary, I guess. And I think it's so great for particularly international visitors to go and see some really classic Australian wildlife. So Caversham Wildlife Park is home to kangaroos, koalas, even big wombats. So my husband Dane just went on a team building event. He had some colleagues visiting from Houston in the US, and they all went to Caversham Wildlife Park, and they got to take photos with koalas and photos with the wombats. So it's a really special experience and a great way to really get, I guess, that kind of Aussie experience.
Oh, no, that sounds really cool. I'll definitely add that to my list when I visit this year, because that sounds really perfect. And some of the beaches around Perth as well. I know you've mentioned the sunset, but do you have any particular favourite beaches that you'd recommend?
I think an iconic beach that is very popular for visitors is Cottesloe Beach. So that's probably about 20 minutes from the CBD. It's got quite a beautiful building set on the coast. It's an old tea house. It's called the Indiana Tea House. It now has a lovely modern Australian restaurant in it. It's really calm. There's lots of pubs and restaurants and cafes kind of along the strip of the beach, so you can grab a meal, watch the sunset, get fish and chips, takeaway. So that's a really great beach, particularly with all the dining options. And then my personal favourite is City Beach, which is about 15 minutes from the city. And it's actually where I got engaged about 6 years ago. So it holds a special spot in my heart.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, and that's a really big, long, beautiful beach. Really, it can be a bit dumpy in terms of the waves sometimes, but if you visit on a low wind day, it's flat, calm, gorgeous, crystal clear water. So it's a really great spot.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Now, that kind of, I guess, pivots really nicely into, is there a better time of year to visit and experience Perth, or is it kind of an all-round destination?
That's the thing I love about Perth. You can truly visit all year round. We do have quite a Mediterranean climate, and winters are usually quite mild. If you do want to make the most of those beaches, though, I do definitely recommend visiting around the warmer months, probably more October to April would be best. You don't have to visit in the peak of summer. Honestly, visiting even in the peak of summer, like right now we're recording, it's January, and it's been 42 degrees today up in the Perth Hills where I live, which is too hot. So, yeah, I do really think travelling kind of, those shoulder seasons is a really lovely way to experience Perth as well.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, let's talk a little bit about the seasons again. So there are very distinct seasons in WA compared to, because I know I live in Queensland, which is basically hot or hotter, but WA has definite season changes.
Western Australia is very big. So if you're in the northwest, the seasons don't change that much because it's a lot closer to the equator, so it's a lot more tropical. If you're talking about Perth, though, there is distinct seasons, summer, spring, autumn, winter. It just doesn't get too cold. Yes, it rains in winter, but it's not torrential. There's no snow. So all things considered, it's considered quite Mediterranean, quite mild.
And beautiful blue skies. I know you get a lot of, we talked about that before, about how much sunny days that you get in Perth.
Yes, apparently 3,000 hours of sunshine a year.
Which is incredible. So with those 3,000 hours, you can enjoy those 5 experiences that you already kind of discussed, Rottnest, the beaches, wine tasting, the botanical garden, wildlife park, which all sound fantastic. Now, if somebody's visiting Perth and they've already kind of covered those, what would you say would be the lesser known spots or alternatives that they could include into their itinerary when visiting Perth?
Sure. So a few lesser known gems that I would recommend is there's actually an island right in the CBD, actually. You can just walk there from Perth Centre. It's called Harrison Island, and it's actually home to native kangaroos, and there's no entrance fee. They're just wild kangaroos that somehow many years ago got trapped on this little island in the middle of the city, and there's a pedestrian footbridge that you can go across and see kangaroos and take photos of kangaroos with the CBD and the skyline in the background. So I think that's quite unique, and not many people know about it. So next one, there's a shipwreck. So there's some great beaches. We already spoke about beaches, but I don't know if many people know, but there's actually a shipwreck off the coast near Fremantle that you can just go snorkel out to. So it's called the Omeo Wreck, and it's located at Coogee Beach, south of Perth, maybe 40 minutes from the CBD. And it's an amazing snorkeling spot. There's octopus, marine life, fish in this quite well-preserved shipwreck. So that's a really cool spot. And then lastly, summer in Perth is beautiful. There's always lots to do. We have a event on that's happening right now actually called Fringe Fest, which is like a cultural and comedy shows. But what I love to do in summer on those warm summer nights is go to the movies. So there's 2 spots I love. There's the rooftop cinemas in Northbridge, which is like Perth's kind of like entertainment and nightlife district. So you go to the top of like a 20-story building and surrounded by the city lights, you watch a movie on the rooftop. That's really cool. And then also Kings Park that we spoke about, they have an outdoor cinema that's on during summer, and it's just such a cool vibe. So I love both of those.
Oh, I love outdoor cinemas. I think there's nothing better than outdoor cinema. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite memories from when I was a child, going to the drive-in cinema, which I just absolutely loved. Now, if you are visiting Perth and you want to go and experience all these amazing things, what's the best way to get around?
If you're just staying in Perth and you want to do maybe like a few day trips, you can definitely get around with just public transport and using tours for the day trips. There's lots of guided day trip options. So you don't need to hire a car. If you do hire a car, though, it obviously just gives you a little bit more freedom and flexibility, and you can explore a little bit further outside of the city. So, for example, going to the shipwreck that I just spoke about, you could do it on public transport, but it's going to take a lot longer. It'd be a bit more inconvenient. So I think, if you do want to hire a car and do a few more day trips, that's definitely recommended. Otherwise, it's not necessary. So you can get around on public transport and, using Ubers.
That's good to know. Yeah, and I must admit, I did use the trains and Ubers and buses actually when I was over last year. Now, I'm going to pivot to one of my favourite topics, which is food and drink. So when I'm over there, what about dining options? Where should I eat? What should I eat? Where should I eat?
Oh gosh, you're almost spoiled for choice. I think Perth has got some really great foodie options. So we spoke about Swan Valley doing a wine tasting. Definitely go out there and have a long lunch, have a few glasses of wine. One of my favourite wineries, well, it's actually technically not a winery, it's a distillery in the Swan Valley. It's called Old Young's Distillery. They have the most incredible restaurant that serves native bush tucker inspired meals. So I actually went there in December for my mum's birthday. That was my second visit. And we had things like crocodile chorizo and emu pastrami and gin made out of native botanicals. And it's just amazing food. So I love that. That's, very Western Australian as well, because it's all native Western Australian bush tucker.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I definitely want to try that.
Yeah. For general dining, Fremantle, which is, I guess, a suburb south of Perth, it's about 30 minutes from the CBD. You can get the train there. Freo has a lot of history. It's a maritime port, so there's just so much old history from its port days. There's some really beautiful architecture there. And Fremantle has so many amazing restaurants, bars, cafes. It's very much like they've got a coffee strip, so it's very buzzing, very hip. There's actually a place where I recommend you can stay a couple of nights if you want to mix it up, staying in Perth CBD and then a couple of nights in Fremantle, because it's also where you can go to get the ferry to Rottnest Island. So all the food there is actually amazing. I've got a few favourites. If anyone wants recommendations, they can feel free to contact me. But you can't go wrong with any foodie places in Fremantle. And then lastly, I just did something this summer, which I would highly recommend. It's only on during summer, but it is a luxury seafood cruise that takes place on Rottnest. So you catch the ferry over to Rottnest and then you jump on a smaller boat and there's a private chef who's cooking fresh seafood, including big crayfish, so Western rock lobsters. You have oysters, free-flowing sparkling wine, beer, ordinary wine, all from Western Australian wineries. And it was the most incredible experience and very well priced considering the full day experience you got from it and the amount of amazing food we were served. So if you're looking for a special experience over summer, I would highly recommend the Rottnest Island luxury seafood cruise.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I did see pictures of that on your Instagram, Tess. It looked fabulous.
Yes, I've got a couple of videos from that experience, so you can go get a sticky beak of all the yummy things we ate.
Oh, no, it sounds fantastic. So we've covered a good amount of information here about Perth, and we can find more on your website and obviously beautiful pictures and videos on your Instagram. So just share again where we can find you.
Yeah, my blog is tesssomewhere.com, and on social media you'll find me under the handle Tess Somewhere.
Perfect. Now, what is the one tip that you would share with someone visiting Perth for the very first time? I should have asked you this last year, shouldn't I?
It's all right, you had your daughter as your local tour guide. So my one tip is don't stay in Perth. Some of the best things to do around Perth aren't in the city. If you spend all your time in the city, I think you might get a little bit disappointed. Perth CBD is definitely not as hip and buzz and happening as maybe other capital cities go, but there is so much incredible nature and stunning places to see, only a short, sometimes even 1 hour or less car ride away. And it's really quite accessible to get to, whether you have a car or join a tour. So definitely get outside of the CBD and explore.
And I know you've mentioned Rottnest and Fremantle, but what would be the other kind of places that you would say that you would recommend? Because I actually should have asked you about the best kind of day trips if you're based in Perth. And I did look at some tours myself, actually, to the Pinnacles, which I didn't get to, but I will be doing this time. So what would be, as well as Rottnest and going to Fremantle and trying some of the fantastic food, what other kind of day trips out of the CBD would you recommend?
Yeah, I have an article on my website with 25 day trip ideas from Perth. And the one that I think would be the most popular, that I sell the most tours for, is the Pinnacles Desert tour. There's two options, and the one that's the most popular that I advertise on my website and I see a lot of bookings come through is actually Pinnacles Desert Stargazing Tour. So you leave Perth in the afternoon, you stop at the Lancelin sand dunes, you can go sandboarding down these towering white sand dunes, which is a really cool experience. You go have a stop at the Cervantes Lobster Shack, see how they process lobsters, maybe grab a snack or even some lunch. And then by the time sunset comes around, you're heading to the Pinnacles Desert, and they set up a barbecue for you under the stars. So you can stargaze in the middle of a desert, which is just absolutely surreal, and it has incredible reviews. Everyone I've spoken to that has done it has just absolutely loved it. So if you're looking for a really unique and memorable experience, that's a great way to allow you to have the morning in Perth and then go spend the afternoon and evening exploring the Pinnacles Desert.
Oh, that is definitely going on my list for when I visit later in the year, Tess, because that sounds amazing. Thank you again for coming onto the podcast and sharing your experience and knowledge and, just enthusiasm for travel in Western Australia and Perth and actually all around the world. It's always fantastic to chat with you.
Thank you. I look forward to being your tour guide when you come to visit in May.
Thank you, Tess. I'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Tracy.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.